Welcome, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Yeah, I need some energy. We're in fabric right now, so I know it's a little bit early. I don't know if anyone else got lost, but I certainly did earlier. It's a bit different in the daytime, but here it is. My name is Sarah Bo Parker. I'm a DJ, I'm a host, and I'm an alumni of Point Blank Music School. So I used to do the radio broadcasting course, and it's so great to be back here and to see so many amazing faces. So thank you so much for joining us. So today's panel, I'm joined by these wonderful people. We're going to talk about Get Synced, music in media. And they have a wealth of experience across this space. So we're going to get into their journeys, how they first started in music, their career highlights, their challenges, and of course get some really valuable advice to help you get started in your careers. So I think we need to kick it off with you, my lovely lady.
Hi, I'm Jo Gregory. I work for Cavendish Music, which is a production music library.
Brilliant. Don't we love that? And can you just give us a description of what a typical day in the life is for you, or even in your week, because I'm sure it's quite varied?
It is very varied. I head up the sort of operations and strategy side, so I look at what we're doing both internally and externally. So production music is specifically music made for TV and film. So I mean, we kind of there's a team of 10, and it's split into two. So we have the people that listen to the music, get the briefs in from clients such as ITV, BBC, brands, etc. We look through our catalogue of music, and then we pitch it to them for use on those platforms. And then the other side of the team are composers and producers who make the content for our catalogue. So our week varies from sort of going out and seeing clients, which again is kind of like all of the sort of big brands, the TV networks, Netflix, etc. Doing all of the briefs that come in. We make 60 albums a year, so
wow.
we're constantly working with producers and composers on that side of things as well. So it's quite a busy job, but it's varied and we really enjoy it.
I love that. Thank you. And Holly.
Hi, my name's Holly Buhaja, and I'm a film and television composer.
Amazing. And can you also give us like a typical day in the life of, or day in the week of for you?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much a day in the life of is kind of just waking up and composing across the day, really.
I love that.
Yeah,
let's live that
yeah.
life.
No, I'm living the dream.
Sounds very chilled but exciting.
Yeah, and more often than not, I work in some studios or bring in, musicians to record, and it's really wonderful. Every day is different. I'm working on a vast array of different projects, and yeah, it's great.
And do you have an at-home studio, or do you go into studios yourself?
I've done a bit of both across my career, but after COVID, I kind of moved into a space and have a separate home studio. It's just, the most convenient, I suppose. And now I kind of, if I need a bigger space for larger ensembles, I'll then go into studios.
Cool, beautiful. Thank you so much. And Bonnie.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Bonnie and I work at Leland Music. It's a music supervision company and we do short form and long form, so advertising, TV and film. We just did the last season of Top Boy, which was good.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, how was that?
Yeah, pretty fun.
Have you got anything that you can tell us about it that was like not really known? Which is obviously we're going to keep the secret in the room.
I didn't get to meet Kano, unfortunately, but it was a good one to work on. And but I mainly work on advertising on short form. So typically I'll get a brief from a brand or an agency, and they'll either want us to do music supervision and like music research to find like the perfect track for it. So I'll make a playlist, or we'll work with composers to get something composed specifically for the brief. So we'll write a creative brief for them. Or they'll have a track in mind, so we'll kind of negotiate that with the rights holders and the label.
It's a lot. You've got a lot going on.
Yeah.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you so much. And Daniel, can you please introduce yourself and give us a typical day in the life of your world?
Right. So, hello, my name is Daniel. I can recognize some faces here, not many. My main job is probably quite similar to Holly's. I'm a composer. I work mainly in film and TV, and then occasionally I work on installation projects as well. So Usually I work from my home studio, my studio outside of home. It's about 15-minute cycle, more or less. And yeah, it's a great space. I work them most days, and then once in a while I may go to another studio, or sometimes if I'm working on an installation project, I may work on location. You know, if it's like music for a museum or something, I may finalize the music on location. But most of the time, alone in the studio, an introvert's dream, pretty much. Yeah.
I love that. This is perfect. So all of you have such a wealth of experience, which is amazing. But what I want to know is, what was your first initial job or opportunity to get into this space? And how did that come about? So who would like to kick it off? Joanna?
Yeah, I can kick it off. So I studied at Brit School, so I was there for 4 years. And then I fell into retail, got fired, don't tell my mum. And then
Secret safe with us.
Yeah.
Secret safe.
So I was like, wanted to get back into sort of the sort of media world. So I was like asking around, and I managed to get a job on Saturday Kitchen, answering the phones on a Saturday afternoon for like 2 hours. And from there, sort of fast forward 4 years, and I was directing a VT for Richard E. Grant for a daytime TV show. So I sort of got my foot in the door and grafted. So I kind of worked my way up. And then from there, I was kind of spending a lot more time in the edits, working with sort of laying music over the sort of stuff that we'd been filming. And then I sort of really got an interest in the sync side of things, and sort of making lots of contacts with music companies who were providing music for the edits within TV. And then kind of it was just kind of working my way to sort of speaking to these people, getting a really good relationship with them, and then managed to get an opportunity to go and work for a major label doing production music. And I haven't looked back. I've been in it 13 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that journey. And Saturday Kitchen, is that their studios in Clapham?
Yes. Yeah, Kennington. So yeah, not far.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Long time ago, yeah.
And Daniel, what about yourself? How did you start?
So my background is a performer. I started playing piano, and then I got into playing double bass and playing in jazz ensembles and things like that. And then probably after that, I got into, I felt a little bit like I want to do something a bit more. So I started arranging music for different artists, and then producing music as well. I really got into like 90s trip hop and electronic jazz, where jazz and electronic music kind of meet. And I was lucky enough, while I was in uni, a friend of a friend was a very talented filmmaker working on their first 2 short films. And I was just he asked me, do you want to write music for it? And I was like, yeah, sure. I was, by chance, at the same time doing a module in the uni where I was studying, which was composing for visual media.
Okay.
So it was just super fortunate, in that sense. And the first 2 short films that he did were the first 2 short films that I scored. And then he moved on to doing adverts and ended up doing, feature film. And I was basically with him along the way. And obviously, at the same time, kind of I realized during these first 2 short films, I really love doing this. So I started doing more and more and more of this, and getting to know more and more people. And and also working with different composers, doing bits and bobs on their stuff, additional music or things like that. And the installation stuff was just really by chance. I just knew somebody who was a designer in a design studio, and they were like, do you want to make music for a museum in Paris? And I was like, yeah, sure. So that kind of opened a new avenue, I guess.
I love that. That's what I call the domino effect.
Yes.
And just based on both of your answers and your experiences, it just shows that your network is your net worth. Like going out and meeting people, and days like today, you never know who you're going to meet or who you're going to connect with, and what opportunities can spiral from that. So I absolutely love those 2. That's really inspiring. Holly, what about you, my love?
You're talking about networking and stuff. Like, I am originally from Gibraltar, and there is absolutely no film industry there. Yeah. So I kind of started from absolute zero. And
when did you come over to London? I guess, was that for your first place?
I actually studied at Leeds College of Music, a bachelor's in music production, and that's kind of how I stumbled into film. It was a course that was kind of the whole technological side of music, and then also split with writing music. And there was just a film module course, and I just thought, I've never done this before. It's the first year. If I'm terrible at it, won't count to my final grade. It's fine. And it was it was a very cinematic light bulb moment, and I just kind of never looked back. And I had like a gap year between doing that and doing a master's where I was in recruitment. Completely like different ball game, yeah. And then I got into NFTS, and whilst I was there, I was kind of just decided to start working immediately alongside the 2-year full-time course in the industry. And once I graduated, I was pretty much freelancing full-time.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was very good.
That's a great journey. I love that.
Thanks.
And what about you, Bonnie? How did you get your first opportunity? What was it? What was so special about it?
Yeah. Well, I did graphic design at Leeds at university, and I didn't know what I really wanted to do after that. So I did graphic design for a bit, but music was always my kind of number one interest. And then I managed to get an internship at this trance record label in London. And I was like, I don't like trance music, and I don't really want to live in London. But
now are you the biggest trance fan ever?
Yeah.
Yeah, thought so.
But I was desperate, so I took it. And actually, it was pretty fun. It was a really small label. Got to do loads of stuff, learned the industry, did a bit of A&R. And then I was like, yeah, I definitely want to work within music. But also film production interested me as well, and I didn't know music supervision was a job then. So I then, what happened next? Oh, I then got a job randomly. This was just meeting someone at a bar, I think. They were looking for someone, post-production runner at Kick-Ass, the film. So
mate, you've worked on some cool things.
Yeah, and they've like read that, so I was like, awesome, do that. And then that led to another film, worked on Attack the Block. But I was always more interested in the music supervisor and like, you know, how you make the soundtrack and stuff like that. So then fast forward many different jobs. I started freelancing and then was working with Vice quite a lot.
Sweet.
Doing like documentaries and stuff on the music side. And then, yeah, that's it really.
I love all this because it just shows you that, like, especially working in the creative industry, working in music, film, production, there's never one path. I think that everyone's journey is so different, and to have confidence in your own path that everything's going to work out as it's meant to work out. Because it's not like you're just getting a normal office job, do you know what I mean? There's not a trajectory to it. But on that note, so for someone who has very little or zero experience in today's world now, obviously we've had COVID, we're opening up a little bit more now, so people are able to come to these networking events, which is amazing. But what advice would you give to someone who is just starting out, and they might not have experience, or they might have experience? Like, what would you say to them? Jo?
I think the most important thing, you're saying, you know, your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
So I think if there's a part of the industry that you're really, really interested in, for example, music supervision, like what programs is it that you really, really like that you want to work on? Who are the supervisors on those programs? Do your sort of homework and have a look into those people. Do some stalking, it's always good. And then, I mean, there's no harm sending them an email or contacting them sort of via LinkedIn or another platform and just sort of saying, look, I'd really like 10 minutes of your time. Is it possible we can meet for a coffee? And then just sort of have a conversation with them. They might not be able to give you a job. They might be able to give you some really good advice, but they'll remember you. And I think if and then if there is a job that comes up, they might go, oh, I met this really nice person, and maybe I can sort of give them a job and whatever, or pass them over. And I think get yourself out there, do your research, and just get yourself in front of as many people as possible, I would say.
I love that. Actually, that's how I initially got into the industry myself. I met someone at an event, a music event, and I just walked up to them.
Exactly.
And we've remained friends, don't worry. I didn't get arrested, it's fine. Holly, what about you? What's the advice that you would give? Specifically to what you do as well.
Yeah, I think from a compositional perspective, I spent a lot of time, I think, with imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And then after a while, I kind of realized that there's a power in that. I'm like in a state of imposter syndrome because I'm doing something new, I'm doing something exciting, and I really care about it. So I would say kind of just lean into that, and along with that, lean into your strengths. I think people are looking to work with composers because they like your approach to what you do. And within that just comes from, it's birthed from your uniqueness, the things you gravitate towards, how you collaborate and communicate. So I think I would just say, really kind of just be true to yourself and just really approach the career from the aspect you want to really move into and where you want to be.
Yeah, I love that. I think imposter syndrome is such a big thing
Oh, yeah.
for everyone, but no, I think that's a really important point to bring up, so thank you. And Daniel, you're nodding. You've got the music industry nod there, my friend. What have you got to add to that?
Two things that kind of pop to mind. First of all, have more than one string to your bow, I think is a really good one. Sometimes you think to yourself, there's all these kind of romantic stories about Steven Spielberg and John Williams, and they're always going to be together, until George Lucas comes in, obviously, But you have this kind of stories about directors and composers always kind of, and it can be very romantic, and you think, I just need to know that one person. And it's true. I can count on one hand the people who were really influential in my career. But saying that, you want to actually make sure that, when that person is busy filming their next project, you have something else to do. And when that person is doing something, you have something else to do. So that's really important, I think, having a few things that you're doing that is keeping you busy. To me, personally. I know that some people are different to that, but personally, to me, that's been really useful.
Yeah, especially in the world of freelance as well. I can imagine you constantly are looking for new work, but if you don't have anything backed up, you can get yourself in a bit of a panic mode.
I mean, sometimes, you need to really know how to keep yourself busy, when you don't have things to do. So you can have your own project happening, you can write your own album, people do different things. But I feel like personally, I feel lucky that I've been pretty busy for the last few years, I haven't had much rest. And I think that's part of it, probably. Yeah. That was the first thing. I forgot what the second thing was, to be honest.
There was a lot in there, so I'll take that. And Bonnie, and if you do remember, jump straight back in. Bonnie, what about yourself?
Yeah, similar to Joe, I think I stalked a lot of people.
But not on LinkedIn because they can see.
Just in general.
Not if you log out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a key bit of advice. Perfect. Yeah, log out. Okay, fine.
I think out of 10 messages on LinkedIn, and maybe 2 people would reply. And I think I always make an effort now to try and talk to people if they contact me, because I remember being in that position, and it is just really helpful because I don't know the industry at that point. I didn't know what a music supervisor was. I thought it was just making playlists, and it just sounded great. And most of it is, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's a great part
just kind of getting the knowledge from the inside and kind of weighing up all the different routes you could go in. It's just really helpful. And because I kind of ruled out a lot of things like working in a label, A&R. I wanted to basically put music to picture. That's how my mind works. So yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much. Oh, here he
do
is.
remember.
Here he is. He's remembered. We're back in the room.
I think second thing I would think is if you want to work with other people as well, not just on your own projects, then just put your ego aside. That's really important, I think. Because you start, out and you're like, I'm going to be the next, I don't know, Hans Zimmer or, Johan Johansson or Mika Levy or whoever is your favorite composer. And then you kind of realize actually filmmaking is a collaborative art form, and you can be collaborating with other people, with other composers. You could be assisting, or you could be writing additional music, and working your way up from there. So you just have to put your ego aside and just make yourself useful. Yeah.
That's really, I think that's generally in music as well. I think that's super, or in life as well. It's very important. So looking from the perspective of an artist, how would an artist or a composer get their music heard, seen, played in film and TV and production, things like that?
I guess we as a company get sent a lot of music from composers and artists, but just having a personal touch and knowing what we do as a company, because I've had so many emails where they've forgot to copy and paste the the to so and so company, it's the wrong company, or they'll just be like, I love your stuff, you know, just be a little
and you're
bit
like,
more,
what are you talking about here?
Yeah,
It's your opportunity to big me up.
I guess. Be specific in who you contact, do your research, and if we've worked on Top Boy and that's your thing, maybe send us a playlist of suitable tracks for the next season or something like that.
And what can a person do to stand out other than that? Because you must get hundreds of emails in your week. Is it a case of, I mean, has anyone ever turned up to the office? Question mark.
Maybe
Or-
that would be a no-no.
But do you know what I mean? You hear stories of this,
Yeah.
by the way. A friend of mine actually went to New York and went to an office before.
Really?
That's like stalker levels, but you know, it worked.
Yeah, it's happened with us as well. There was somebody outside
Yeah, it
trying to get in at
happens.
reception.
Yeah, it does happen. I
I
don't
mean,
know if it
maybe
works.
that would
everywhere.
work if you caught me on a good day. But yeah, on a bad day, no.
Bring me a very strong flat white.
Yeah, I can be bribed.
So is there anything that anyone has done in the past that stood out to you for an application or for someone to bring you new music?
I got sent a mixtape, which was quite fun because I still have a cassette player, and I thought that was quite novelty. So I
Was
actually
it?
listened to it, but I'm not suggesting that was necessarily the best way.
But it stood out, right?
Yeah, it stood out. Yeah,
Were you able to play it? Did you have a cassette player?
yeah.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah,
There we
that
go.
was
And what about you, Joanna? What's like stood out for you for music composers or artists to get their music
Yeah,
played?
I would say the same as Bonnie, really. It's really frustrating when you have on our website, contact this email address to have
Right.
to submit your music, and then they contact the wrong email address, and you're just like, well, I'm not going to employ you if you can't even read. But they've, you know, it's having that real personal touch of like, you know, if they do email you direct to say, hi, I know that you worked on X, Y, and Z, or to just sort of bring a bit of personality rather than it just feeling like, oh, you've just copied and pasted it and just sort of sent it out as a bit of a blanket. And then also maybe include links in there. Sometimes I get submissions and it says, oh, I've done this, I've worked on this, and then there's no links, or it's a link to something that doesn't really work, or I think the worst thing is when you sort of say to a composer, what do you, or an artist, you know, what do you specialise in? And they go, oh, I can do everything. It's like, no, everyone's got like a speciality. Like we're obviously all jack of all trades these days.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think if you sort of really hone in on what you're good at and use that as your
Leverage.
that always goes a long way.
Okay, amazing. And then I'd love to hear what your perspectives are after hearing this.
I mean-
like, what's your journey like from the opposite side?
I can confirm that it works because that is precisely what I did.
Love it. Wait, confirm what you did.
When I was starting out at NFTS, I basically started emailing people, companies whose work that I really resonated with. And I think because I did that and I knew about the companies, and it was very specific contact that I made because I really thought the collaborations could be something beautiful. I think they noticed that genuine nature of my contact, and I think they responded to that. Yeah. I would say, yeah, it worked.
I love that. Okay, well, you know, we've got a strategy right here. And Daniel, what about yourself?
I'm 100% with Holly on this. Yeah, I think it's you know, I know people who would like write an email and, you know, send it to everybody, you know,
Yeah.
it will be like a copy of the same email. Never worked for me personally. It's always like you listen, you know, you find an agency or a director or somebody that really resonate with, and again, you feel like, oh, this could be a win-win situation, you know, I would love to work with them, but, you know, I feel like I could be useful for them as well, you know, and that's really the things that stick,
Yeah.
you know, when you
It's
can
an
actually
exchange.
be, yeah.
For sure. And from that perspective, do you guys have agents? Do you work with agencies? Or do you work with the composers and artists directly, or is it a bit of both?
We work with composers and artists directly.
So you guys don't...
I have an agent. It's Leland.
Part of our sister company is Leland Originals, which is a composer agency.
Okay.
But we tend to work with them when the brief's right, but not necessarily just them.
Amazing. And do you have an agent?
No, I am my own agent, free
Love
agent.
it.
Yeah.
I respect it, to be fair. So much has been discussed. I'm loving this. Can I ask you all to share a career highlight that shaped your professional life? Yeah, what have we done that's awesome? Something that's like shaped you and made you who you are today.
I think it's just being within the sync industry for me. It was a real, it's been a real learning curve. I've learned a lot. There's the industry itself has changed so much over the years. It's you've had to constantly adapt, and I think obviously the way that we've worked, COVID as well, that's been like that was quite an interesting one, because obviously we have to go and see our clients quite a lot, and that completely stopped, and it was just new ways of working. And I think it's it's taking Cavendish Music from what it was when we first came on board to what it is now, sort of 8-9 years later. We've really sort of propelled it into a different sphere. And I think that's probably the career highlight of kind of that journey from where it was to where it is now.
And what's the impact of social media being in sync? Because I know that places and platforms like TikTok, they're a bit more non-traditional, I guess. How has that had an impact on your day-to-day or the future of sync as a whole?
I guess it's just an example how it's like forever changing. You just got to keep up with everything. I mean, like, yeah.
Do you have a TikTok account?
I don't know.
Yeah, me neither.
Too old for that.
Yeah, I know,
I don't really understand it.
But what about you? Has that changed your business strategy at all?
Yes, a little bit. Or changed, or maybe like added to. I think I've gotten quite a bit of work off the back of things like Instagram, because it's quite visual as well. It's like a great platform, I think, for film. And I've just had quite a lot of people get in touch with me through that, and just seeing kind of like snippets of my portfolio and what I've worked on. So I think it's, in a way, been another sort of route people have found me through. So yeah, it's very useful, and it has added for sure.
And that's this made me think, how important is promotion for both of you on the composer side? Is that a really important part of your career process?
With social media or in general?
Just generally, like how important is self-promotion? How important is getting yourself out there?
I mean, it's always really important to remind people that you exist, I think. People would be like, you may have worked with somebody, I don't know, a few years back, but they may be working on something now, and suddenly, I don't know, you're not in their head, and suddenly you meet them in an event like this, or you send them an email, and you're like, oh, wait, I do have something for you, right now. So yeah, it is important to remind people that you exist. Social media, I have a very complicated relationship with social media.
Don't we all?
Yes.
I mean, I'd just like to add off the back of that I quite literally a few months ago liked a post from a producer I've kind of known for a while but not worked with, and then she was like, oh, there's this project, you'd be perfect for it. Would you be interested? And literally got a great job off the back of that. So
love that.
Definitely reminding people you just exist.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just staying connected, I think, is a really key thing. But doing it in an authentic manner is really, really important, I think. Okay, well, we need to wrap up very shortly. But I've just one last question. If you had one piece of advice to give someone starting out right now, I know we've kind of covered it, but just as a takeaway, a key piece of advice that everyone can take away today, what would that be?
I think it's focus on what it is that you actually want to achieve, and keep that at the forefront, because it's quite easy to go, oh, maybe I'll just do this, or maybe I'll just do that. And it's just focus on what you want to achieve, and then do the research and do the work.
Love it. Mic drop. Holly.
I guess in a way I've kind of already touched upon it, but I would say just be true to yourself and what you want to do. I found that at the start of my career, I was kind of moving towards an angle in which it was kind of like adjacent to what I wanted to do, but not quite. And I think that was because I was maybe wearing too many hats and trying too many things. Yeah. So I would say just, sometimes you do need to kind of do a few things in parallel, like I'm a session vocalist and stuff on the side as well. But I think just, really kind of know what you want to do, what your aims are, and just really kind of go for it.
I love that. 2022 energy, just go for it.
Yeah.
Bonnie, what about you?
Yeah, I guess just take the time and figure out what you actually are interested in and do your research on that. Because I was still, for so many years, wasn't sure what side of the industry I wanted to be in. And just getting information, like knowing on the music supervision side, there is a lot of licensing involved. So how are you on contracts and how are you with negotiating? And it's not all just creative.
Because the legal side to that as
the
well.
The legal side to it, yeah. So just kind of knowing, what it entails completely. And if that's not your thing, then, there's something else for you.
Love it. Do your research. Great. And Daniel, to finish off, it's the big moment.
It's so hard to think of
No
something that I haven't
pressure.
said yet. They said all the good things. I think persistence. Obviously talent is important, but persistence and hard work is probably beats talent most days of the week, I think. And don't waste too much time on like imposter syndrome or thinking, is this the exact you could beat yourself up saying, oh, is this the right direction or something like that. Just at some point things click. For me it happened around 2016, 2017. It's like, okay, that's now I realize what I am. So don't beat yourself up before you get to that point, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I love that. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Love it. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much. You've been incredible, and I've personally been so inspired. And I know everyone in the audience has too. So we could give a big round of applause for our panelists.